Update: my wife's ex-boyfriend is terminally ill and would like to use his Make-A-Wish to spend a day with her. I'm torn on what to do. Original post. Hello Reddit. My wife, let's call her Susan, and I have been married for 8 years. I've known her even before we were together, during which she was dating someone named Ken, obviously not a real name. We were all part of a choral group in our church. The three of us were actually quite good friends, and I genuinely thought Susan and Ken were going to get married or be together for a long time. It was a shock when Susan told me that they were no longer together. According to her, one day Ken just decided that he wanted to move interstate. When asked why, he didn't explain. The next day, he asked Susan if she wanted to join him. Confused, Susan said no since she thought it was way too soon, and she had work commitments. He then proceeded to break up with her, leaving Susan very depressed and confused. According to information from a friend several months after the breakup, Ken had planned this for a long time, and he was seeing someone else interstate. However, these were all allegations based on some texts, and until now Susan has never found out why he left or why he broke up with her. It was all very confusing. When asked by friends why they were no longer together, she simply said, "I don't know. He just broke up with me because I didn't want to move interstate with him." Years passed, and we all forgot about it. Susan started to open up to me more, and then we started dating. The rest followed. Anyway, yesterday Susan received a call from Ken's mom. She's a nice lady who semi-frequently watches our performances and volunteers during the Christmas Carol season. It was all very sudden because we only see her once or twice a year, and she's never called in the past. She told Susan that Ken is terminally ill and has been for the past couple of months. He is in a local hospital interstate. The hospital has a mini Make-A-Wish foundation run by volunteers, and apparently Ken's request is to go to the national park for a picnic with her. It's all weird, right? I thought it was a bluff too. But it all seems legit. I talked to Ken's mom, and we both agreed that it's odd. Ken's mom said that Susan doesn't have to say yes, she's simply passing on what Ken said. The prognosis for Ken is grim, and we don't know how much time he has left. I suppose the sooner we decide, the better. Susan is obviously confused. She wants nothing to do with Ken again after what he did to her, and a lengthy period has passed since then, but she admitted that she would feel bad refusing his last wish, especially if his prognosis is that grim. She said jokingly, "Well, you don't have to worry about me cheating, he's going to die anyway," a bit dark, but I mean she has a point. Personally, I'm torn too. I trust Susan, and I know nothing romantic or anything like that will come from this if she chooses to see Ken. But why does he want to see her now? For closure? That's the only thing I can think of. He will most likely have a hospital volunteer stick around when he goes to the outing, so it's not like he can do anything weird. But why her? Why not use his wish for something else? Reversing the situation, however, if I were terminally ill and obviously had an intention to meet someone, etc., and it got rejected, I would be beyond depressed. I know how awful it must be for your last wish to be rejected. Am I looking too much into this? Should we honor his wish and let Susan spend the day with him? Or should we just refuse it? Any input is appreciated. Edit: forgot to add that when going for the picnic, there will be a hospital volunteer tagging along to supervise Ken. So they won't be left alone. Reading the top comments before the update. Sounds like mortality has Ken reflecting on his life, and he wants a glimpse of what could have been or revisit the mistakes he's made. I imagine he's in a dark place and doesn't appreciate the burden he's putting on the both of you. Be careful. The best case scenario is that he still holds guilt for what he did to your wife and is seeking absolution. By contrast, he may be desperate to find any sort of legacy and hopes that his former love still holds a torch for him, another incredible burden to put on someone and born of desperation. It's ultimately your and your wife's choice to make, and it's a tough one, but perhaps a suitable compromise for all parties may be to exchange letters. If all Ken seeks is that absolution, then the letters may ultimately be enough. If he insists on a face-to-face meeting following the letters, then you may at least have a more informed view on his intentions to make a decision together. Best of luck. Actually, I just raised the idea of a Skype call of some sort before the meeting. We're waiting to call his mom, and we'll raise this idea also. Who knows, maybe all this can be resolved via Skype instead. I'd like to assume his best intentions, but it might be best for initial contact to be written so as to avoid an ambush. Emotions are likely super high on both sides, and it only takes a few words to leave a lasting mark. If your wife wants to go, ask to go with her. I don't think I would want to go if I were her. but I can understand why someone would want to. She feels bad he's dying. She never got closure, and while she is 100% happy with you, it's still at the back of her mind. We'll be in touch with Ken's mom to see if I can tag along or even have a change of venue. Update. So my wife got hold of Ken's mom, and we managed to ask more questions and clarifications. Thanks to those of you for your input on this one. Ken's mom only just heard about his plan to see Susan yesterday, no mention of it at all throughout his hospital stay. Ken has been reaching out to a lot of people recently, including his high school friends. She thinks that this could be a blanket attempt to reconcile with many people. When asked if she remembered anything or if Ken said anything regarding the breakup with Susan, Susan actually asked this question herself. She said that she didn't even know they had broken up until a couple of weeks after. An interesting thing she said is that Ken has always felt that there was nothing much for him to do in the state he was originally from, the state we're in, and that he wanted something different. He may have jumped the gun too quickly, landed a job too soon without consulting Susan, he didn't, and then freaked out when he realized Susan was not ready to move. Ken's mom thinks this is most likely the cause of the breakup, even though Ken never told her exactly why. They're not very close. Upon hearing this, Susan thinks it makes sense, but she said what he did was still not very nice, because he never told her that he was unhappy with their living arrangements at the time. Even though Ken did well in his new job, it was very stressful, and he got into weed, alcohol, and heavy smoking. Those contributed to his current illness. It has been confirmed that a medical volunteer will accompany him if he chooses to go outside hospital grounds. Since Ken is becoming more unsteady on his feet, he will most likely be wheelchair-bound soon, according to her. When asked why meeting Susan in a park was his idea, Ken's mom simply had no idea. Ken is happy for me to accompany Susan to the park or venue, wherever it may be. He is also fine with us meeting him in the hospital, but there is a strict 2-person-a-day visiting rule in place at the moment, so his mom may not be able to look after him if both of us show up at the same time. His mom would like to visit him daily to help with daily living and baths. Ken is reluctant to do a Skype call or a phone call in general. Ken's mom stated that his speech is quite slurred at this stage and he hasn't been eating or drinking much lately, so his mouth is dry most days, which makes speaking uncomfortable for him. Writing a letter is not something he can do these days due to being drowsy from medications or sedated. Dictating would be hard too because of the same reason above. She has been helping him type emails to friends some days. There is a possibility that Ken will be transferred to his mom's home for end-of-life care if it gets to that stage. Ken's mom reiterates that Susan can decline the offer, and with everything going on in the world, she would understand if she can't make it. But she hopes that we will consider it for her son. With this update on the conversation with his mom, we're now more inclined to go instead of not going. We would still like some thoughts on what we may have missed, though I think this covers everything now. We will be in regular contact with his mom until we know what's going on. Susan and I did a mini risk assessment, and we concluded that this is pretty harmless. She said she still feels apathetic toward him but would still feel bad if she didn't go to visit, so she would like to go with me now that Ken and his mom said it's okay for both of us to go. Second update. Thank you Reddit for all your input. Susan and I just got back from doing shopping and chores, and we had some more talks about this. We actually reached out to a couple of our friends in the Coral group, and one of them actually knew Ken had been unwell, just not that he was that unwell. No one really talks about Ken in our group because Susan and I are still there. The fact that he's this unwell has been kept under wraps quite tightly. Susan said it seems like she has the power to make Ken's end of life a bit easier, so she would like to visit him, along with me, listen to what he has to say, if anything, and that's the end of it. We don't know what the logistics will be or when this will happen, since it would obviously require a lot of planning from Ken's family as well, and from him, but I will post an update once we all meet him, since there seems to be a lot of interest in this. We've texted our Coral group members to perhaps visit him together when the time is right and restrictions are lifted, and they were all keen to send him off with one last song, The Irish Blessing. We will be reading through the comments and replying the best we can. For those of you saying the Make-A-Wish Foundation is for kids, we know this. This is the hospital's version of it, run completely by volunteers. It is only available in their end-of-life care facilities. I'm sure there is a proper name for this, and Ken's mom said Make-A-Wish because it explains what they do simply. Why at the park? No clue. But Ken must have said that to the organizer with his mom, and she simply relayed it. With him being that sick, I'm sure he didn't really care much about the location, as shown by his willingness for a change of venue and for me to join in too. And why did we decide to post this on Reddit? Well, because it's simply a very, very weird occurrence. It was a joke actually. Susan said, "LMAO, why not post this on relationship advice and see what kind of interesting perspectives we get? If it were just Ken, and he wasn't dying, and he wanted to meet Susan at the park out of the blue, then the answer would have been heck no from both of us. But the fact that he's been reaching out to others, after the revelation from his mom, of course, and is unwell, makes it a bit more complicated." Third update. We will be seeing Ken next week. The hospital doesn't allow large groups, so it will be just the two of us visiting. The choir group will visit separately. Thank you all for your input. We will make a post with an update on how that goes. Last update. Hi everyone, sorry for the late update, life gets in the way, and we've been really busy. Anyway, I thought I'd make this update for those who are curious about how it all went. The meeting actually went really well. So after a couple of reschedules, we drove to the hospital to see Ken and his mom earlier this week. We arrived quite early in the morning, around 8 a.m. His mom stays with him overnight most days, so it was good timing for her to hand over Ken to us while she went back to rest. A Redditor suggested the idea of bringing her a care package, and we did, just a box filled with warm socks, moisturizer, books, and toiletries. She burst into tears when receiving it. It was such a great idea. Anyway, we first went in together, my wife and myself, and we caught up a bit. It was a slow process since Ken couldn't really speak for too long in one go, so the conversation had to be broken up into sections. I asked him if he would like some time alone with Susan, and he said yes, so I left the two of them and went out for a walk and to do a bit of remote work on my laptop. I told her to text me if she needed anything. I left Susan and Ken for about a couple of hours before Susan texted me to come back up. During that time, Susan asked him what happened, why he moved interstate so soon, and whether there was another motive. The story goes as follows. Ken was working a low-paying job at the time and felt like he was never going to get any career progression. Susan and I always knew Ken was creative-minded. He got a diploma in film, but what we didn't know was that he had secretly been searching for opportunities in the film/animation industry. He applied for a job for fun, and a few months later got offered a position as an intern animator. He was shocked. He genuinely didn't think he would get the job. Because of that, he hadn't planned anything in advance. The job required him to move interstate as soon as possible, and Ken felt pressured to say yes. He had applied for similar jobs before and had been rejected, so he didn't prepare. He asked Susan to move with him but left out the job details because, as an intern, he would be paid even less than his current job, with lots of unpaid work. He was scared Susan would disapprove of the lower wage, so he left out the details and simply asked her to move. He admitted it was stupid and apologized for being immature about it. After the breakup, and after working a few months as an intern, he said the industry wasn't what he expected. There was a lot of crunch time. Interns slept at the office while waiting for programs or animations to compile. He then got into alcohol, since everyone in the office also drank. This turned into severe drinking, then smoking, and then drugs. He stuck it out and became a technical lead, but said he had zero social life or support apart from a couple of colleagues. He burned himself out every day. The only support he had was a small group that went out for social drinks, which is why he fell deeper into alcohol and drugs. He was in and out of the hospital for alcohol poisoning and never sought proper help. He said he might have been depressed, but since he was earning just enough to pay rent, plus his substance habits, he didn't seek help. He admitted to other bad decisions that were popcorn-worthy but too long to include, things that got him arrested, fired, etc. When asked about the park situation, he said there was no malice. He was just sick of being in the hospital all the time with no chance to go outside. And that's it. His substance abuse led him to where he is now. I managed to catch up with him and reminisce about the old days when the three of us used to hang out. He said some of his old friends from school visited him, and he was happy they still cared. He told me he tried reaching out to his former girlfriends to apologize, but only Susan turned up. He has had other relationships since her. He said he was sad about it, but wants to tie up loose ends while he still has time. As for his prognosis, I asked, and he said he doesn't know, but there are plans for him to continue end-of-life care at home, which he prefers. When we left, I asked Susan how she felt. She told me she felt a lot better now that she had seen him. She then told me all the details above during the ride home. Several times she was cursing and saying, "Man, I can't believe he did that, what a dumb person." So for those who worried she might go back to Ken, sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't think that's happening. I asked her the next day how she felt, and she has pretty much moved on from it. She just hopes his mom can cope with the stress, since she's a very nice person. Susan looks a lot less guilty, so I'm glad we went. We haven't really touched on the topic again for days, we've been focused on work and our upcoming road trip. Thanks to all the Redditors who chimed in and helped, from both perspectives. In these uncertain times, we should still try to be kind to others. And if there's any takeaway from this, it's to seek help if you need it. Ken was obviously in a bad place and influenced by the wrong people. If you know someone who is spiraling into destructive habits, reach out. Who knows, you might save a life. Next story. Wife is a whole new person after giving birth. I'm scared I'm going to lose her. My wife gave birth to our daughter 4 months ago. She doesn't work, so she is a stay-at-home mom. She is not the same person she was before the baby. Before birth, we got into a serious argument maybe once every few months, now it's almost every weekend for almost no reason. Monday, we were supposed to have a date night, drinking wine, watching movies, playing games, and it usually ends with sexual relations. I'm holding her while we're watching a movie, and she randomly blew up on me for no reason. She said she's sick of me and doesn't ever want to have sex again, then stormed out and locked herself in the bedroom. I prioritize her well-being. I make sure she's fed, hydrated, and doing well mentally when she's with our daughter. She doesn't even seem happy to see me anymore when I get home from work. Past fights recently have been about how she's not happy with me anymore after I snapped back one time about her nitpicking everything I've been doing recently. She has never once mentioned this before the baby. She snapped at me because the baby was crying and I couldn't get her to sleep fast enough, and she also screamed at me because I ran a yellow light with her in the car. When we fight, it's really hurtful things being said to me, and I'm always saying sorry trying to diffuse things. I've done maybe 95% of the feedings at night so she can get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep consecutively, and I take the baby from the moment I return from work so she can get alone time. I also do a lot of the household chores for her, and it seems to land on deaf ears. She refuses counseling, won't talk to me about it, and doesn't think it's a big deal. It feels like our marriage is close to an end, and I'm scared. I care so much about her, and I hate seeing her like this. Can anyone relate? It could be postpartum depression or anxiety. 4 months post-birth is a difficult time regardless. She may also be struggling to adapt to her new life. I remember moments where I felt like I hated my husband, especially in the early days. I would try to get her to speak to a doctor. Can postpartum depression really do that to someone? Like, I've never seen so much hate/vitriol from her toward me before. Absolutely. I've had multiple friends have full-blown psychosis. One thought people were trying to break into her house and kill her kids. Please take it seriously. I had another friend whose girlfriend had a breakdown when their baby was 9 months old. She had a psychosis, and ended up hurting the baby while hallucinating. If your wife doesn't seem like herself, it's very important that she talks to someone about it. I cannot stress how important. Yikes, I'm sorry that happened to your friends. Sounds very scary. I'll try to get her to seek help. This is textbook postpartum rage. Hormones are still so effed up around this time. Please try to get her more help/support, other than from you, during the week. Maybe a doula? A nanny? If you're able, of course. If not, she really needs medication or counseling. I know you said she's refused, so that makes the situation much tougher. Yeah, it's tough. She says she doesn't want another woman in our house watching our kid either when I suggested help.